Welcome back to another Division 2 upload. I'm LtBuzzLitebeer, and just like the thumbnail says, in today's video, I'm going to be discussing directives, and for me, this is a sensitive subject, as I have never been a fan of how they do nothing but hamper our player power fantasy, but let's not get into all that just yet. What I would like to accomplish today is how the directives are currently functioning, their pros and cons, and when possible, to offer up amendments to their current mechanics to better balance them out, and finally, to propose a reward structure for enabling them. But before we begin, if you haven't yet smashed that sub button for intensive Division content, please do so, and don't forget to ring the notifications bell to never miss another upload from my channel. Alright, let's get this one started. Like I laid out in the intro, I wanted to briefly discuss directives as a whole, and how they're currently functioning, and like I said, this first part is going to be brief. Now, what has happened with directives is that they are seen strictly as a hindrance, as a means of artificially increasing difficulty, not through new AI mechanics or by increasing the number of enemies we encounter, but rather by reducing the availability of agent capabilities or enhancing our target's lethality while leaving ours diminished. As you look down the list at the 5 directives currently in the game, all of them do something to hamper our abilities, to make us less of a badass while simultaneously making our enemies more powerful, and this really hurts the player power fantasy, something that the original Division game did so well. Now, even when we did choose to activate directives in Underground, they had both a positive and negative attribute. More damage output, but the ability to inflict self-harm, a type of yin and yang design ethos that the Division 2 simply doesn't offer. So where does this leave us with directives, and how are they currently used in the game? Well, for a majority of agents, they are seen as nothing more than a nuisance, only used when a new season launches and it is a race to reach rank 100. Crank it up to 5 directives, speedrun a heroic over and over with 3 of your pals, and you will rank up quickly, but this really is counterintuitive to how they should or could function, which is what I will get into next as I dissect each directive, give you a breakdown of the pros and cons, and offer up possible reworks for each. First up is the easiest directive to discuss, and that is Fog of War Revisited. And the text for this directive reads, minimap and directional threat indicators are removed. I mean, pretty simple explanation, right? Turn this directive on and you're going to receive 25% more XP, but at the expense of your radar and minimap. And just to be clear, each time you activate a directive, you receive 25% more XP. I just don't want somebody out there to think that different directives offer up differing amounts of extra XP. Okay, so what do we do with this directive, as there are absolutely zero pros to disabling your radar other than a possible argument that it forces you to stay hyper-vigilant as to your surroundings, but that is a stretch to say the least. Having radar and directional threat indicators is crucial to maintaining your fire team, and let's be honest, this game is not the best for providing incoming damage alerts like grenade halos or even hit registration. Like many of you, I have died to phantom grenades where I never saw the landing zone indicator or have been bursted down insanely fast by incoming fire, but never once saw a tracer round or received an audible or visual warning that my armor was being melted off. It just happened. So here is my rework alternative to make Fog of War Revisited more appealing and powerful if an agent chooses to activate it. Since this is a cover-based shooter, and since you are taking away my radar and threat indicators for having this directive active, I would recommend that agents receive a reduced incoming damage modifier while in cover for having it active. This directive has a way of reducing the pace of combat and screams for agents to take cover and assess the situation. Since it is my suspicion that the game uses a flat incoming damage percentage versus armor value, it could be reduced by, say, 5% for having this directive active and in cover. Now, it could be adjusted up from there, and it would really help reduce the effects of some of the funky mechanics that happen in this game, like phantom grenades, being shot through cover, or being bursted down in a fraction of a second while receiving no incoming damage alerts. Next up is Pistolero, and what I read into this one is that the dev team was seeing that a majority of players were not using their sidearms, and therefore developed a forced sidearm directive to at least get us to momentarily swap over to that weapon archetype. Here's how the current directive text reads. Start with no ammo, hostiles killed with a sidearm are the only ammo source. So long story short, you start off the mission with 0 primary ammo and are reliant on your sidearm to down enemies. As they die, they drop primary ammo and you can pick that up and reload your primaries. Run out of primary ammo, you will again need to switch over to your sidearm to kill enemies, rinse and repeat. Now here's the issue. Once an agent kills a few enemies and loots the ammo, reloads their primaries and continues on, they don't really have a use for their sidearm. Furthermore, using mechanics like the Gunner Spec or Bullet King have ways to completely subvert this directive, and it becomes more of a momentary hindrance that can be quickly overcome. Now, if the dev team's purpose for Pistolero was truly to promote sidearm gameplay, then let's rework this directive to express that point. Here is my rework. Sidearms deal 15% additional damage when this directive is active, and the enemies killed with sidearms have the ability to drop special ammo that can only be used in your sidearm. This rework would then 1. Promote sidearm gameplay for more than a few seconds of a mission, and 2. Provide a player with a positive power fantasy while engaging the game in a different manner. We've all had a terrible experience with this next directive, mainly because of the intensity of the effects and the amount of rounds on hand. And of course, I am speaking of special ammo. And let me be honest here, I am actually for this directive, but the execution of the idea has gone terribly wrong. Now, the issue with this directive is actually threefold. First, the intensity of the effects is, in my opinion, way overtuned. Being gassed literally makes my character into an acid-laced, tripped-out dream, and I can either look at the ceiling or the floor. Now, this is just one of the many intensity issues that varies across the differing factions, but these intensity effects need to be scaled back. Second, the amount of special ammo available to enemy factions is just insane. Now, whereas we get 30 rounds if we are using one of the specialty gear sets that allows for status effect ammo, or we pick up a dead NPC special ammo pile, enemy factions have a special NPC type that drops an unlimited supply of this stuff, and going even further, they don't seem to ever run out, even when they're on the other side of the room from the special ammo crate. And third, well, I've already kind of covered that grief, and that there are so many damn NPCs running around with this specialty ammo for free that it turns into a shit show with this special ammo flying all over the place, constantly impairing our ability to maintain combat. And isn't that what this game is all about? Combat? My rework for special ammo is really quite simple. Whatever faction we are engaging awards us with unlimited special ammo to match our targets. But here's the catch. We have a meter that, if exceeded for firing too much or too often, will self-inflict the special ammo type against our own agents. Now, for those of you that played Underground with shock rounds, same theory, but let's spread it across all the special ammo types. With this rework, we still get to feel powerful, but we have a visible check and balance in play. Hold down the trigger too much or fire too rapidly, and the effects could hit you at the most inopportune moment. I saved the two newest directives for last, and Fragile Armor has to be my least favorite directive ever released into the live game. I mean, it's just that bad. Here's the text. Armor breaks apply a stack of broken to the agent. Each stack of broken reduces an agent's max armor. Using an armor kit removes one stack of broken. Now, missing from the lore text and what I have found out through questioning is that each stack of broken reduces your armor by 20% of your initial armor value. I mean, just taking a look at this directive and you wonder if whoever designed it actually plays this game. Incoming damage from NPCs, especially on Legendary and even Heroic difficulty, is punishing. Our agents, even when investing into armor core attributes, frequently have their armor broken, and now we have a directive that further punishes us by reducing how much our armor can essentially heal back up by 20% for each stack of broken that we receive. Then we have to use a medkit to wipe away a stack of broken, and on in-game content, medkits aren't exactly dropping like rain. Now, of all the directives, Fragile Armor needs the most help, so here goes. This directive needs a positive, any positive, to give agents a reason to use it, and I think that can be found in additional damage. How about for each stack of broken that is applied to our agent, we receive a weapon damage buff of say 10 to 15%. I think this could really give agents something to think about. On one hand, they could instantly use that medkit and flush off the broken effect and therefore regain all their armor values, but no additional damage. Or they could try to accumulate or live with multiple broken stacks, but with the understanding that their damage output would go up significantly. Kind of like the naked marksman rifle talent, but in a directive. Without this possible rework, fragile armor is extraordinarily punishing with no positive effects and will be avoided by a vast majority of agents. The fifth and final directive to rework is of course one of the newest, and that is Scavenged Skills. So let me first read you the text and then we can discuss it. Skill cooldowns are only reduced by collecting skill parts from killed enemies and destroyed weak points. So if you kill enemies or destroy enemy weak points, it's going to drop this gray material, and those are the skill parts. How many skill parts are needed to reset your skills are listed in place of where the skill shows in your UI. Now once you have collected the necessary skill parts, the skill resets and you can immediately use it. Now FYI, collecting skill parts when both your skills are already reset does not store them for later use. Also, destroying the weak points and then killing the same enemy does not award you with double drops. One enemy, potentially one maximum skill part drop. Okay, so here's the issues I'm having with this directive, and it's going to be broken up into solo and group play, and even further into build types. And for my example, I'm going to comment on skill builds and all red DPS builds. First up are skill builds. In solo, you will need to loot 3 skill part drops to reset your skills. And for my example, I'm using a skill build on all skill tier core attributes and the turret drone combo. 3 material drops is not bad, and assuming you are rolling easy, it's pretty easy. But here is the issue. With this directive on, your perfectly crafted skill build, and more specifically your skill haste, is rendered useless. No matter how much skill haste you have stacked onto your build, it cannot help you reset your skills. In addition, when you kill enemies that cannot be reached, such as across balconies or walkways, and they drop skill parts, you will not be able to reach them and therefore get the skill parts to reset your skills. Are you in a group with your skill build? Well, forget about it, as you only get the skill parts to drop if you deal the killing blow. So if you're running with several DPS players, they will probably get the lion's share of kills and will therefore get the most skill parts to drop. Finally, asking a skill build user to run around the battlefield picking up resources on Legendary is a big ask, especially because it is the squishiest build possible. Now for all red DPS builds, it is actually the opposite for many of the issues faced by skill build users. My raid build uses a drone revive hive combo with 0 skill haste, and it normally takes about 164 seconds for the revive hive to reset. That's just under 3 minutes. Running solo on heroic difficulty, it requires 32 skill part drops to reset the hive, and after testing it out, I can normally get my revive hive back in about 2 minutes 25 seconds just by killing all the NPCs and grabbing all the skill parts drops. I'm actually benefiting from a directive designed to place a premium on skill parts and effectively hurt skill builds across the board, all while using my all red damage build. In group play, all I need to do is kill the target and I get the skill parts to drop, while a skill build player, who probably needs it more, gets nothing. The rework for Scavenged Skills is really quite simple in that it needs to be evened out to help and hurt both skill builds and DPS builds alike. And to be honest, I am not so much concerned about solo play here, as a well-crafted skill build can melt most targets on heroic or legendary and will therefore get all the skill parts drops much the same as the all-red DPS build. But when this scenario is shifted to squad play, the skill build user can potentially get squeezed out here unless their skills land the killing blow. The fix? Well, for squad play, Scavenged Skills needs to drop skill parts that are visible to all players in the squad and can be looted by everyone, not just for that single player who landed the killing blow. Ammo drops for kills, crafting materials drop for kills, and skill parts should as well. Otherwise, you have a skill that can be beneficial to solo players but overall hurts the pacing of combat for squad play. Alright, so I've made my way through all 5 directives along with their pros and cons and offered fixes and comments for all 5 to make them more beneficial for players and the combat pacing, but But now we need to discuss incentives for activating and using these modifiers. Currently, for each directive activated, we receive an additional 25% XP that can be stacked up to 125% for having all 5 directives active at once. But let's quickly dive into this and take a look at what is going on here. First up are players that are sub 1000 for shade rank. Now for these players, some, not all, are seeking out ways to increase their XP gains and will therefore engage with the directive structure. They want to reach shade rank 1000 as quickly as possible. However, from my experience with talking to and squatting up with other players in this experience bracket, they avoid the directives for many of the reasons I spelled out in this video. All they do is punish the players while increasing the power of the already powerful NPCs while slowing down the pace of combat. Quickly switching over to players that have already reached shade rank 1000, and the incentives for activating directives are even worse for this bracket of players. Every rank up after 1000 awards a player with some crafting materials and a minuscule gain to a player's overall health bar. The only reason a player in this experience bracket would activate directives knowingly are when seasons are launched and they want to attempt a speed run to reach season rank 100 as fast as possible. Once again, directives are not something they want to use or attempt, but rather are something they tolerate to help them reach the end goal faster, and then will be deactivated once they hit their target. Now I think the way to entice players from both skill brackets to actively engage with directives are 1. To implement changes to all 5 of these directives to add a positive effect to offset the negative effects, as they are currently nothing but hindrances, and 2. To use more than just a flat XP gain for using them. So here's my suggestion. Tie better loot drops, i.e. attribute rolls, directly to modifiers, much the same as the game has already performed with difficulty settings. This is a looter shooter, and players are still actively engaged with this game not only for the content, but for the chance of getting better and better loot. So why don't we tie in the directives and how many a player or squad has activated to incrementally better loot drops? I mean, if legendary loot drops are scaled to a percentage of 75% aggregate attribute rolls, for each directive activated from there, the percentage could increase by 3%. Finish a legendary with all 5 directives activated and your minimum attribute roll average would equal 90%. Now, I personally think this alternative would at least give players a reason to ponder using directives, as without an extra incentive over just a flat XP gain, they avoid them. Lastly, and I just wanted to mention this quickly, the XP gains on Summit once you hit either heroic or legendary floors with directives is minimal compared to what can be found in the open world. I can farm heroic control points and receive huge XP gains for minimal effort, while Summit with forced directives comes nowhere close to that XP gain for double the effort. Just something for the dev team to look into, is that balance of gains is severely skewed to the open world, and if you truly want players to engage the repetitive grind of the Summit, it needs balancing. Okay, I've laid out my plans, thoughts, and reworks for directives in the Division 2 moving forwards, and this is probably a good place to end this one. As always, I look forward to reading your feedback in the comment section below. Don't forget to smash that sub button and ring the bell to never miss another upload notification from my YouTube channel. If you liked the video, rate it with a thumbs up, if not, with a thumbs down. Do you feel like displaying your feelings about the Iron Horse Raid PDF scandal and simultaneously supporting a charity cause? Well, look in the video description or the pinned comments for links to my Teespring merchandise store, where you can purchase a shirt with all proceeds going to StackUp.org. A charity organization that helps veterans through the power of gaming. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter for all my latest thoughts on most things gaming related, and until the next one, this is Lieutenant BuzzLitebeer, signing off.